Welcome back. Up to this point, we've been talking about a lot of regular Spanish verbs. These are verbs that follow the same conjugation patterns time after time. You'll take off the infinitive ending of the verb, and then you will add the ending that corresponds to the subject or the person doing the action. Nothing happens to the stem of the verb or the root. All the changes happen with the ending. But we're now heading into some new territory that are called stem-changing verbs. These verbs will not only change the ending in correspondence with the subject, but they will also change the root or the stem of the verb. And in Spanish, there are three main patterns that do this. We have verbs like tener and querer, that we talked about last year, that are E to IE stem-changing verbs. We have verbs such as servir and pedir. These are E to I verbs. And we have verbs that are either an O or a U to a UE stem-changing verb. And we'll have examples like morir, dormir, and jugar. So as I already mentioned, the main part of the conjugation that you have always done still stays the same for stem-changing verbs. You'll take off the AR, ER, or IR infinitive ending and put on the ending that matches the subject, just as you've always done. Sometimes we have verbs where the stem change has more than one vowel, such as an E to IE stem-changing verb, and you'll have more than one E in the stem or the root of the verb. If you have a question on which E to change, you change the second to last one, or the one that comes right before the infinitive ending, whether it be AR, ER, or IR. A trick with stem-changing verbs is that the stem does not change in the nosotros or nosotras conjugation. You go back to the original stem or root and leave it as it is before you put on the conjugation ending. You also want to be aware of those verbs that have a stem change, but it might have an irregular yo form, and we'll talk about more of those as we go forward. So let's look at three different examples of these conjugations. Contar, which is an O to UE verb, perder, which is an E to IE verb, and pedir, an E to I verb. When we conjugate for yo cuento, yo pierdo, or yo pido. The ending, the conjugation at the end, is the same as every yo conjugation that we have done up to this point. You take off the AR, ER, IR, put on an O. Your stem has now changed according to what type of verb this is. Cuento, pierdo, or pido. Looking at tú. Cuentas, pierdes, and pides. Usted, él, and ella. Cuenta, pierde, and pide. Let's skip to ustedes, ellos, and ellas, and have cuentan, pierden, and piden. Hopefully you've noticed that all of the conjugation endings follow the same patterns that you have done for all of your regular AR verbs to this point. As, es, and es for tú, a, and e for usted, él, and ella, and an or en for ustedes, ellos, and ellas. Remember, the ER and the IR verbs stay the same in the conjugation endings for all of those. And now the one that looks different, nosotros and nosotras. Contamos, perdemos, and pedimos. Two things to be aware of. One, there was no stem change. You go back to the original infinitive stem. Then you put on the infinitive ending. Amos, amos, or imos, depending on if it is an AR, ER, or IR verb. Got that? Now, how can we remember which stems to change and which ones not? When do we change the stem? When do we leave it alone? The mnemonic device often used for these kind of verbs, these stem-changing verbs, is also calling them a shoe or boot verb. And that's because when we look at the outline of a shoe, the conjugations that fall inside the outline of that shoe, yo, tú, usted, él, and ella, ustedes, ellos, and ellas, everything that falls inside the outline of the shoe, you change the stem. That which falls outside of the shoe, nosotros and nosotras, or if we were also doing vosotros and vosotras, those fall outside the outline of the shoe and we do not change that stem. So that's the shoe verb mnemonic device to remember. Inside the shoe, change the stem. Outside the shoe, leave it alone. So let's take a look at the shoe and our last conjugation chart. See again, everything inside the shoe has changed the stem or the root of the verb before putting on the conjugation ending. Those sections, nosotros, nosotras, vosotros, and vosotras, outside the shoe, no stem change. So can you summarize what we've been doing with shoe verbs or stem changing verbs? 5 main concepts. First one, we have 3 different types of stem changing verbs, E to IE, E to I, or O or U to UE. Those are your 3 main types of stem changing verbs. Your endings follow the same patterns as every AR, ER, or IR regular verb that you have done so far. If there's a question on which vowel in the stem do I change, go to the syllable right before the ending, the second to last syllable of the verb infinitive. One more time, inside the shoe, change the stem. Outside the shoe, leave it alone. Or in another way of saying that, vosotros, vosotras, nosotros, and nosotras conjugations don't change their stems. All other conjugations do. So let's take a little practice. He is counting his money. We're using the verb contar, which is an O to UE verb. So we're going to change that to él. Take a second. Él cuenta su dinero. I did lose my backpack. Perder is our verb here, and it's an E to IE verb. We're conjugating for yo. Yo pierdo mi mochila. We ask if we can go. Pedir is one of our verbs. That's an E to I verb. And we have the second verb, poder, an O to UE verb. We're conjugating for nosotros, so remember, 2 things you have to remember on nosotros conjugations. Also remember that nosotros is understood most of the time in the conjugation. You don't always have to put that subject pronoun in front of it, so we're going to jump right to the verb. The first one, pedimos si podemos ir. Pedimos si podemos ir. We ask if we can go. You want the toy. Querer is our verb here, another E to IE verb. Tú quieres el juguete. And they serve the food, last one. Servir, an E to I verb. So ellos sirven la comida. Cuenta, pierdo, quieres, and sirven all changed their stems and then conjugated as other verbs do. Pedimos and podemos did not change their stem and followed the conjugation pattern for nosotros, differentiated between an IR verb and an ER verb with no stem. Thanks for watching. Keep practicing those shoe verbs.